Hi everyone, in this presentation I am going to demonstrate for you how to complete the short math activity sheet, which is a lesson that is due this week. You're going to be doing 3 short math activities and 3 short science activities over the course of the quarter. We are starting with math and we will rotate each week. So this week you'll do a math lesson, next week you'll do a science lesson, and we'll alternate as the weeks go by. And just know you'll be processing these, not processing them, you'll be sharing these in a small group of your peers, and I'm going to show you later in a different presentation how to find your group workspace and how to participate in that. But the first step is creating your short math activity sheet or your lesson. And I've already started mine, but I'm going to just describe to you what I've already done. And so when you look at your document, this section will be blank. I've gone ahead and selected my math strand, and as you can see, the math strands are listed right below. There's numbers and operations, algebra, geometry, measurement, and data analysis and probability. And I've selected the math concept. Some things come in pairs, and I'm going to show you where to find math concepts, because unlike science, in math, you're not creating your math concept, you're using one from a predetermined list that I have pulled up here. So this is the math concepts list that you will be using during the quarter, and you're going to use this in your student teaching as well. Some of you have already done your student teaching, but this is a really important document that you get to know and keep over the time spent in our early childhood program at Pierce. So this lists the math strands, and under each math strand are a series of concepts. And so we have numbers and operations, algebra, geometry, and data analysis and probability. And you saw from my document that I had already selected numbers and operations number 8. And so I had just copied and pasted some things come in pairs, and I went ahead and pasted it into my lesson, and I kind of had to think about this. What's developmentally appropriate for young children? What's a common age that children start to notice that things match? And I thought, oh, this is something toddlers can do, and toddlers all the way to up to 4 years of age. And so that's how I determine my age range. So when I do this, I always start with the math strand and concept, and then I go back up and think, okay, what is developmentally appropriate? This is kind of the age range I think that is developmentally appropriate. Then when you get down to activity objective, this, if you watched last week's narrated presentation, I went over this in detail. So I highly recommend that if you skipped last week's narrated presentations, that you go back and rewatch them. They're not short. There's 3 different videos. There's one on just writing activity objectives, and then there are 2 on how to do math and science planning. So it's really important that you take the time to watch those videos, because that is really critical and key teaching in this particular course. So for an activity objective, always remember there are the ABCs. So the A is your audience. This is easy. It never changes. The audience is the children, always. Next is the behavior. This is what you're going to do. And then the C is the condition. And I like to think of this as the with what. So you've got your audience, the children, the behavior is what you're going to do, and the condition is the with what. So our math concept was some things come in pairs. And I'm just writing mine this way, broken out like this for you, so you can see each part of the activity objective. When you do this, write it as a complete sentence. You don't have to break it down like I have. So the children will match socks. Match is the behavior. Socks is part of the condition, but it's still part of the behavior. So you'll notice that sometimes there's some overlap between the behavior and the condition. And I'll say by finding 2 socks that are the same and folding them together. So The children will match socks by finding two socks that are the same and folding them together. Do you see how simple this can be? And then your math prompt. This isn't a prop. Some people get the words prompt and prop mixed up. And I cover this in our language and literacy class because in language and literacy we talk about a prop that you would use during a story read aloud. A prompt is a statement or phrase. I'm going to type this in. A prompt is a statement or phrase that you would use to gain the interest of your audience, which is the children. Okay? So this means, what are you going to say during your small group lesson to gain the interest of the children? So you might say, can you find two socks that look the same? And this prompts the children to engage in the activity. Pretty simple. It doesn't have to be a question. It could also be a statement. Maybe you're watching as the children are finding matches and you say, look, here are two that are the same. So your math prompt can be a statement or a question. Then the next part, what activities do you need for this activity? So I'm going to say 12 to 15 pair of socks. They need to be different, so I should say that. Pair of different socks. Because you want the children to have some visual interest. If they're all the same, it'll be too easy. So 12 to 15 pair of different socks. And then your math vocabulary, I'm going to take you to a new screen to show you where to find, and this will be in your module for the week, some ideas for math vocabulary. So I'm going back to Canvas, and this is already in the module for you, and it's typed out here. So it's broken down by math strand, and we're doing numbers and operations. And so there's addition, algorithms, divide, estimate fractions, money, numbers, sentences, numerals, one-to-one correspondence, skip counting, broke counting, rounding, quantity, place value. I'm not really seeing anything that matches my math activity, but let's just take a look again. You know what? We could use the word total. We're not adding, but we are combining socks that are alike. So I'm going to go back to my lesson plan here, and I'm going to say that total is one of my math vocabulary words. I don't like it when it does that. Oh, jeez. Just forget that. I'm not going to deal with that. Total. Now listen. Do you see where it says, write the words and definitions? I'm pretty easygoing on the scoring of these first math and science lessons, but as we go, you are going to be expected to read the instructions and follow them and make sure that you define your words. So total. What does total mean? And then you're going to pick two more vocabulary words, but first you need to define total. So I'm going to do a quick search just to make sure I use academic language. That's important when you're teaching. So I'm looking up the definition of the word total. It says, comprising the whole number or amount. Comprising the whole number or amount. You want to use academic language when you're teaching, and you are teaching children the language of mathematics, which is its own language, right? You probably recall that from your own math learning, that there's language that goes with what you're doing. And so total, we might say, how many matches do you have in total? And the children, remember, if you've got 12 to 15 pair of socks, you're going to have 12 or 15 pairs total. So the next vocabulary word I might use is match. and for toddlers, this is a great vocabulary word. For older children, they might already know the word match. Don't get too hung up on it. I am going to call you out if you are picking vocabulary word that is too simple for the age group you selected. But match is appropriate for a toddler. So I'm going to look up definition of match. Remember, I'm not the best at pulling academic language out of my head, so it's okay to Google search the definition. You want it to be accurate. Using my phone, definition of match. It's probably going to come up with several definitions, but that's okay. So here's one. A contest, a person or thing, able to contend, nope. Correspond or cause to correspond in some essential respect. Make or be harmonious. Or to be equal in quality or strength. I like correspond or cause to correspond in some essential respect. Some essential respect. And so you might even use these vocabulary words as prompts during your lesson. You found a match. They correspond. They look the same. And then for my third vocabulary word, let's see. We picked numbers and operations. We picked pairs. Oh, you know what? You know what's great about that math strands sheet? There's highlighted words that can be used as your math vocabulary. And so pair is a great math vocabulary word, and I'm going to use that as my third vocabulary word. Pair. Now again, I'm not great at pulling out academic language on my own, so I'm going to do a quick Google definition of the word pair. Okay. It says a set of two things used together or regarded as a unit. That's perfect. A set of two things used together or regarded as a unit. Okay. Now, a follow-up activity. So this would be, what commercial math manipulatives could you use to reinforce this concept? Write an activity objective or two. You can't just list what you're going to use. This is asking you to write an activity objective. Just like you did at the top, the children will match socks by finding two socks that are the same and folding them together. You want to write an activity objective using commercial math manipulatives. I'll post a quick document that shows some common math manipulatives for you. For this, I'm going to say the children will pair matching what is a math manipulative? Matching unit blocks, not unit blocks, pattern blocks to make sets. So let's make sure we have an audience, behavior, and condition. The children is the audience, will pair is the behavior, matching pattern blocks is the condition. So I've got my A, my B, and my C. And then you're going to tell me the TS Gold objective that aligns with your activity. So I actually have this document for you in the module as well, and it's the objectives for development and learning. Now listen, y'all, there's a lot, right? There's social emotional, physical, cognitive, literacy, language, math, social studies, science, and the arts. You're going to mostly focus on cognitive and math. I'm asking you for this first time to just select from math. And here I'm at the math section, uses numbers and concepts and operations. There's not really counts, quantifies, connects numerals with their quantities. I don't know about that. Compares and measures, demonstrates knowledge of patterns, understands shapes. I'm going to say this doesn't quite fit, but I'm going to stretch. I'm going to stretch and say that 20 uses number, concepts, and operations is all we have. There's not a dimension that fits, but numbers, concepts, and operations. is what I'm going to type into my document. Which is 20.